KUAM News headlines are presented by Calvo's Insurance, a legacy of trust. Serving Micronesia since 1938, Matson celebrating 25 years of commitment to Guam, Micronesia, and the CNMI. Cars Plus, Guam's leader in sustainability and electric vehicles. Learn more at carsplusguam.com. McDonald's of Guam, I'm loving it, and King's Restaurant, serving your local breakfast, lunch, and dinner favorites for over 45 years.
Ahead on KUAM News Primetime, a growing number of people across the U.S. territories, including Guam, are finding other places to call home. A recent report analyzing the surprising trend. Plus, multiple people who admitted to their involvement in separate drug investigations in federal court learned their fate, details from the courtroom. And senators today approving a bill expected to offer millions of dollars in the coming years to survey and fund sorely lacking infrastructure needs for Guam's landless native Chamorros.
Hafide and good evening, everyone. Welcome to Primetime. I'm Nick Delgado. My co-anchor, Hannah, has the week off. We are so glad you could join us. Well, the population for Guam and the CNMI is on a downward trend. The numbers from the U.S. Census clearly showing this reality over the weekend. A report in the Washington Post concluding every territory is now shrinking, losing its population faster than any state.
People are fleeing Puerto Rico, Guam, and every other U.S. territory. What gives? That's the headline of an article in the Washington Post published this weekend. The report using the 2020 census numbers highlighting the decline.
It is disappointing.
Angelo Villagomez is now a senior fellow with the Center for American Progress. He was born on Guam and is from Saipan. Post-college, he returned to Saipan where he worked in environmental conservation. He also created the coalition Beautify CNMI. But that was nearly a decade and a half ago.
But the reason I left was, I was looking for sort of like the next big thing in my career. The opportunities were in Washington, D.C.
A 3.5% decline in population recorded between 2010 and 2020 on Guam and down 12.2% in the NMI, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. The Washington Post analysis showing the drop in population a result of issues like declining manufacturing, lack of healthcare, falling birth rates, brain drain, and climate change.
So for me personally, it was, economic opportunity. I have greater material wealth, but I've given up, close ties to my culture. I've given up close ties to my family. I'm 14 hours behind and 8,000 miles away. So I've missed that. But I think folks have different reasons. Economics is definitely a part of it. On Saipan, climate change definitely plays a role. Our islands have been devastated by 2 typhoons in over the last 7 years, and that affect our economy. And then also COVID. I have a couple of friends who had businesses in CNMI. And it just didn't work out. They did not make it through COVID, even with the federal funds.
University of Guam economist Dr. Roseanne Jones stated in the article, it's really troubling for our middle class and our students who graduate here. They're beginning to say this is a very challenging place economically to build and raise a family to commit to.
Home will always be home. And to a certain degree, this has kind of been the story of the United States for the last 150 years.
Villagomez saying what needs to change is voting representation for the territories in the U.S. Senate and Congress. For now, it appears the trend of more leaving the islands will continue.
Generation right now, we're doing a little bit of back and forth. But for the diaspora that are born in the mainland United States, it's just going to be a lot more difficult for them to get to back home and, meet their family and learn about our culture and what it's like living on the islands.
Responding to the report on people fleeing, Delegate Mike Nicholas states, quote, stagnant economies, the crippling cost of living, a bleak outlook for families, and for Guam, a local government that is focused on power and not the people is sadly forcing generations of families to leave home. Well, she was instructed to sell meth out of local hotels. Defendant Audrey Jean Wolford is sentenced to 10 years in federal prison during sentencing in the District Court of Guam today. Wolford admitting to conspiring to distribute 50 grams or more of meth and engaging in money laundering. She apologized to the court for her crime. The case involves 4 pounds of the drug that they mailed to Guam from Washington. Wolford's cooperation, leading to investigators learning about the years of drug activity she did with convicted drug dealer Vincent Rios, money laundering with felon Eric Aponic, and protection agreement she had with retired GPD officer and former FBI task force officer John Boom Mantinonia. Well, a man who admitted to trying to send nearly 3 pounds of meth to his Zotnya home address will spend 9 years in the U.S. Bureau of Prisons. Michael Rodriguez Cepeda sentenced before federal judge Alex Munson today. KUAM archives show the feds raided Cepeda's home, taking him into custody after authorities found the drugs left inside a cluster box at the Zotnya mayor's office. In court, Cepeda says he made a mistake and he's sorry. In what could be a huge windfall for the long-struggling Chamorro Land Trust program, senators passed a bill today that's expected to provide millions of dollars in the coming years to survey and fund sorely lacking infrastructure needs for Guam's landless native Chamorros. Nestor Lecanto reports.
The bill raises to $100,000, or the prevailing market rate, the fee for landing a cable through GovGuam-owned submerged lands. Sponsor Speaker Therese Terlahi says the money helps resolve one of the biggest challenges that's held back the Land Trust program since its inception more than 40 years ago.
It is absolutely the intent of this bill, by adding sewer to infrastructure, to critical infrastructure for CLTC, that we want to increase the amount of lots that these large tracts can be divided into, the increase the number of residences that can be built, and protect our aquifer at the same time. We're not just trying to build one house, but we're trying to build up entire communities with subdivisions and all the improvements that subdivisions need.
There are currently 11 submerged land leases with international and local telecommunications companies. Under a companion bill that senators are also expected to pass, any lease renewals or new cables that are brought in would fall under the new rates, with all proceeds going directly to the CLTC.
In the interim, that the CLTC continues to do what we expect it to do, and that is to continue with the land registrations that are necessary, the subdivisions that they are able to do with in-house staff, with ARP funds. I think they received about $600,000, with infrastructure funds that are still pending, how those are going to be utilized.
Lawmakers are hoping to expand the Land Trust program that's become more and more critical as unmet demand continues to rise.
So that businesses can thrive and residences can thrive, and we can meet our affordable housing need.
For KUAM News, I'm Nestor Lecanto.
An historic first-ever U.S. Pacific Island Country Summit with President Joe Biden scheduled for this week as the U.S. tries to strengthen its ties in the region in the midst of Chinese overtures. The White House announced the meeting earlier this month, saying it will reflect our broadening and deepening cooperation on a variety of key issues, from climate change to a free and open Indo-Pacific. Governor Lulian Guerrero has been invited as an observer, and Acting Governor Josh Tenorio says she'll be working with from the sidelines to help bridge the gap between the U.S. officials and Western Pacific nations.
There is a big security situation in the region. We in Guam are seeing it firsthand. A lot elsewhere in the Pacific, they read about it, but they don't know the extent. And so I think this is an opportunity for the president to listen and to see what the rest of the Pacific is thinking and talking about.
The Chinese threat to the region was underscored when President Biden surprisingly said the U.S. would defend Taiwan against an attack led by Beijing. But Tenorio says another major issue is the impact of climate change on Pacific Islands.
One of the things I think that that they'll be looking to is the U.S.'s leadership in trying to get emissions down. But I also think it's a contrasting moment for the U.S. because the U.S. is making a lot of progress on reducing emissions, but the greater their competition in this region, China, is not.
The summit with President Biden is scheduled for September 28th and 29th at the White House. Still to come on your news, leader, public school officials taking action after a video circulated showing students up to no good at a local high school. And Chuuk State gets its first wave of positive COVID-19 cases. This and more when we return.
Get up-to-the-minute news, plus access to alerts, streaming radio, promotions, and more on your mobile device by downloading the KUAM News mobile app, available at the App Store now.
Half a day. I'm Eddie Calvo, and I've had the good fortune of knowing and working with attorney Tom Fisher for several years. Tom is a highly intelligent man who knows the law, and he's very serious and mission-driven. And he's focused on getting things done right, and he doesn't waste time. Smart, determined, and efficient, and that's exactly what we need in the legislature. Please vote for Thomas Fisher for Senator.
I'm Tom Fisher, and I approve this message.
I'm so disappointed. I don't know what is happening to the island.
Would you say we have a safer Guam today?
I do. Yes, I do.
I'm Felix Camacho, and I approve this message.
The rising cost of living is affecting all of us on Guam. Our administration has expanded a program. We want to pay for your child's daycare up to $675 a month per child. This means more money in your pocket to pay for other expenses like the cost of gas and groceries. The Leon Guerrero Tenorio administration is investing in Guam's future, and that starts by supporting our working families. We are all in this together, Guam.
This ad is paid for by government funds at the Office of the Governor and the Department of Public Health and Social Services.
My name is Lisa Tahaji. I'm from the village of Yamatic. I lost my job during COVID. For 1 year, I was staying with a family member, but I knew I had to find a place to stay. I was desperately looking for a home. I found out about the Relief Center from the Governor Liu and Lieutenant Governor Josh's Facebook page. I wasn't sure if they could help, but I thought I'd take a chance. I walked into the center and the staff were so understanding and compassionate. They helped me. Within a week, through their assistance, I was called to sign a lease agreement. My kids and I now have a roof over our heads, and I'm grateful for the help of the administration and the Relief Center. For anyone who needs any government assistance, I encourage you to visit the Relief Center. They are there to help.
Subscribe to our KUAM News Digest, our weekly email newsletter with all kinds of information straight to your inbox. Just subscribe and we'll make sure to keep you informed and entertained with news from the KUAM News team, what to watch on NBC and CBS, and the latest promotions from KUAM Communications. Go to KUAM.com, click on the newsletter tab at the top of the homepage, register, and you're all set. Brought to you by Uno Go, Guam on Demand.
Welcome back. Yet another video circulating around social media draws concern from Guam Department of Education officials. You may have seen it. Take a look. The video shows two GW high school students standing